is my first live in like 35 days. Feels good to be able to speak again. There's a lot of mystery and questions behind DMT, so I just like to speak on that a lot. I get told a lot from people who have done DMT that I'm very good at being descriptive and describing trips or what they've seen. And it's because I'm not just describing what I'm seeing. There's too many videos, and I don't mean to put down anybody I'm about to mention, but even the most famous philosophers, all I try and do is simplify things. I don't try and criticize, put down anyone's work or anything, because it's all study material I've used to progress myself to this stage. But Terence McKenna, awesome guy. He's a psychedelic guru, you know. He was a great spokesperson on DMT and trips. Most people are familiar with Terence McKenna. And he spoke about seeing all type of things on his DMT trips. He talked about seeing all type of life forms and elf people. And there's one video in particular I would like to bring up here from Terence McKenna. And one thing to know, DMT is not meant to be a fun drug. It's not meant to be something that you're taking with a bunch of friends to have a good time. That's not the point of DMT. And if this is you taking it with a bunch of friends and you're thinking you're gonna see things and the room's gonna change and it's gonna be a fun time, it's gonna be the opposite. It's not meant to be a fun trip. It's meant to show you who you are and expose yourself to who you really are behind the veil. But the point is there's so many stories and videos beyond explaining DMT and what people have seen. Terence McKenna spoke of seeing elves in one video, and he said that these elves were trying to tell him something. He was in another dimension, and he felt that they were trying to urgently tell him something and get a message across. And he said he didn't really fully understand the message that they were trying to get to him. It was urgent, though. And from my interpretation, my opinion, I can't obviously prove this, but from my opinion, they were simply trying to just tell him, we are you. And this is the way I simplify DMT. So many people say that I have good ways of explaining DMT, and it's as simple as just saying it's all in your mind, meaning beyond your veil, beyond any character, any game, any structure, any realm, any place that you go in the mind, any projected place that you will ever travel in your mind is all you. The very walls holding you, around you, you're the structure, you're the organism, you're the entirety. And when they say we're only 10% aware, we're only using 10% of our brains, because I used to disagree with that. I would fight it and say we're not just using 10% of our brains. Some can think past that and use more than 10%. And that's an illusion, because it's not literally we're only using 10% of our brains. We're only 10% conscious of ourselves in the body as this single organism. And so, being 10% conscious, we can only take in phenomenon on a linear scale. What I mean by that is we're taking in events one at a time, day by day, moment by moment. Things are separate. Nothing is all one. Because behind time and the illusion of time, everything is happening now. One. There is no time, and that's our greatest misconception, is by viewing time on a line, we're forgetting that time is just now. There is only now. There is no beginning, and there is no creation. Creation and destruction, creation, beginning and end, is duality, dual. And the dual, the two, is the illusion, being created from the singularity, from one, from the point. And this is touchy information. Not everybody wants to know this. Some people have gotten mad at me for posting my videos. Some people have said that I'm doing people injustice by telling them all this. But I don't force my information on anybody. Those who have found me are seeking what I'm talking about. If you want to know what the red pill contains, if you want to know what the rabbit hole is, you found it. It's you. I'm simply the messenger, showing you the power within yourself. See, the forbidden fruit is only a threat to churches that keep you coming back and paying for a word of God. That's why the forbidden fruit is a threat. It's only a threat to the churches that have you paying money for a word of God that keep you coming back, vulnerable, looking out into the sky, feeling miserable and praying. But you're paying for it, financially. The only thing a guru makes you pay is mental. You'll mentally pay for it when you come to a guru, and he shows you who you are. He doesn't have you pay financially. He puts you through the mill mentally. And he doesn't need you to come back. The guru shows you who you are. You don't need to come back because you see you're no different than the guru. It's a matter of knowing or not knowing, being conscious or not conscious of your role. But that's the simplest way to simplify DMT, is any realm, any elf, gnome, alien type people that you're seeing is all different forms of you, different creations of you. You're everything in existence. That's the easiest way to simplify DMT in a matter of a few sentences. Is it's all in your head. It's all you. You're everything and no thing at one time. And that's exactly what the triangle represents, is duality being created from a singularity. And I've said this, any way you turn the triangle, you still have the 1 point up spreading out into 2. And that's why the Freemasons use the triangle, because the triangle represents a singularity, a point, which they represent with the eye, and then they have the 2 pillars at the bottom. So it's the point at the top, which is the eye, spreading down into those 2 pillars they have, which is duality, the 2 eyes, the 2 hemispheres of the brain. And what's at the center of these? Your pineal gland, which is producing the DMT to allow you to hallucinate the entire projection in front of you. So there's naturally DMT being produced in our brains right now to allow us to hallucinate this reality into existence. We're seeing a picture right now because DMT crystals are vibrating in our pineal gland at the right frequency. And there's only so much DMT being produced by your pineal gland that you're only being able to be 10% aware of yourself in the body. And so when you take DMT, you're giving your brain a higher dosage, obviously, than it's naturally being produced. So if you've ever seen a brain scan on DMT or on psilocybin, you'll see that a regular brain is only lit a little bit, whereas a DMT brain that's been overstimulated with DMT is lit from front to back, thus making you far more than 10% aware of yourself as just the body. And as I said, when you're 10% aware, you're only taking in events one at a time. When you overstimulate the brain from front to back, you're not only becoming aware of yourself outside the body and as the entirety, but you're seeing that there is no time and everything is the now. You're no longer 10% capable of taking in events one at a time. And so people say, I've experienced everything at one time. I'm everything. I am that I am. And it's because you're allowing yourself to become more than 10% aware. There's only so much DMT being produced that we're only 10% aware. That's what the 10% means. That's all it means. Because, like I said, I used to argue with that and say, no, we can use more than 10%. If I just think hard enough, if I just read enough books, I can become more than 10% aware. And that's not how it works. That's not what it means. You're only 10% conscious of yourself in the body. And And so that's why people explain themselves as being everything, the whole universe, when they're overstimulating their brain on DMT, because you're allowing yourself to be far more than 10% aware of your role. You're also seeing that there is no death because the idea that you had of yourself never existed either. You're dreaming. And just as Terence McKenna says, once you go into Wonderland, you become a part of it because you see it never ends. It never, ever, ever ends. Once you go into Wonderland, you become a part of it. That's why Alice in Wonderland is spot on with the madness, because it embraces the insanity behind existing and creation at all. It makes something that can be frightening and scary to some, and it embraces the insanity behind it. That's why I love the story of Alice in Wonderland. It embraced. To exist at all is chaos. Some will beat their brains to death to figure out why anything exists at all. And that's why I say to people, you can't prove to me that you're real, just as you couldn't prove to me that you were fake, just as you couldn't prove to me you're human. You've never been birthed and you will never die. That's the reality. There is no such thing as death. It's just the idea that you're having of yourself in the temporary, the 10% that passes, that dies. But that's all this is. This character, it's an idea. It's a thought. It's a dream. And ask yourself, when you watch a movie, do you take the movie so serious to where you feel like you're a part of it? To where when you think the character dies, you're dying too, so you really flip out and you dread the end of the movie? No, you know it's just a movie, so you don't panic. You sit there and you watch with entertainment and you enjoy it. You can view this as nothing other than that. It's a movie. You enjoy it because you know it's not real. You're enjoying it. You're enjoying the entertainment of it. This is nothing other than an idea, a character. And that's what Jim Carrey's starting to speak out about, is there's no difference between Jim Carrey and any character he played. They're all characters, including the Jim Carrey. It's just a thought. And that's why he says, we're not here, there's just things happening. There is just things happening. That's it. There is no definites to this universe. There is no definites or absolutes to this universe. This can be very frightening information to some people to find out that they're everything, that they're one, and so they ask me all the time, well, who are you talking to? I'm consciously talking to myselves that sleep right now, that are in the process of awakening. That's who I speak to. I speak to the people who were me in my path and my journey 5 years ago, 7 years ago. I consciously talk to myself on camera. I'm speaking to you, my reflection. Another me in another veil figuring out itself. But again, that's the snake biting its own tail. It comes back around to realize it began where it started because it never began at all. It never was. That's the great realization of self, and that's the infinite loop, is the snake biting its own tail. It's the realization of self forever. And it's not confinement, it's not madness, it's what you make it. So many people flip out and say, well, we're trapped here, this is madness, this is horrible. It's horrible if you choose to make it horrible. Why does it have to be horrible? You look outside and you look at the trees and you look at a sunset or you look at the beach and you can just say, well, wow, that's beautiful. To exist at all can be beautiful, or it can be haunting, whichever you choose. However, whichever pair of eyes you choose to use. If you want to be trapped here, then you're trapped here. If you want to make this heaven, then you're in heaven here. But the sole purpose behind taking DMT is to expose you to the fact that, one, you have no control because you did not ask to be birthed here, so how can you escape a reincarnation process? And two, there's nothing to hold on to. You're trying to hold on and grasp for something and say, well, wait a minute, I didn't ask for this, or I want to be set free, or I want to escape reincarnation, or this, but DMT exposes you to the fact that you have no choice. You're everything. And the Godhead, the one head will never be ahead of its own knowledge. Meaning, it can't consciously trick itself, so it has to be birthed, sort of say, and feel like it's the first time being birthed to slowly figure out its own self again. And the mystery and the I don't knows is what keeps the whole thing going. There'll always be an I don't know. We'll never fully understand the self because you never can. Infinity is just that. It never ends, so you'll never fully understand. That's the whole point. You can let the I don't knows haunt you, or you can let them be fun. Enjoy them. Embrace them. We'll never fully be able to understand the self. You can have an understanding of it, as I do. It's a fractal pattern, it's infinite, it repeats, it's you, it's everything, it's one. It's the two dualities as one. That's still a shallow explanation. It's still not correct. It's still a definite. It's still me explaining something. And as long as we're giving it definites and absolutes and explaining and trying to define, and I've said this in videos, we'll still never be able to. That's why holy books are wrong. Because it's saying that this is absolute. This is absolute and nothing else is. And it's crap. You'll never be able to have an absolute, ever. It doesn't work. There's so many people that say, well, because I've said before, they're the part of the subconscious and the conscious mind, the ego and the higher being, the higher conscious self, is also a duality. You're in a split duality between your ego and your higher conscious self. The game of remembering and forgetting. And it's what the whole show is about. Remembering and forgetting, remembering and forgetting. Your ego needs your higher self just as your higher self needs the ego. So many people want to escape the ego and just leave the ego forever and say, I want to be with my higher self forever. That's like you saying you want to be stuck in one video game as one, consciously aware that you're the only one in existence in this video game forever. You would not want that, I promise you. DMT will expose you to that because it will show you you are the one and you're everything, and you do not want to consciously be aware of your own existence as one forever, so you create egos, mini microorganisms to forget themselves. The higher self needs the ego as the ego needs the higher self. It's the game of remembering and forgetting back and forth. Some days, and I say this too, some days I get lost in my ego. The character of Tyler, I get lost in my ego. I'm a person, I'm not perfect. I'm not always this perfect guru who's a perfect example. I get lost in my ego plenty of days because it's fun to forget sometimes, to just have something else to blame. To be unaware that it is me the whole time. To just let me blame something else today. Let it not be myself, it's something else's fault. It's fun to forget sometimes. So sometimes I consciously get lost in my own ego. Whereas some days, I put it on the shelf. And say, no, today I'll be the higher conscious self today. I won't entertain the ego today. The two need each other. You can't just leave your ego behind. That's what So many are in such a rush to obtain this great knowledge, to reach the highest chakra. And once you do, now what? Now what? We're under this great impression, great illusion, that if we meditate hard enough, if we sit in one spot hard enough, we'll just... What is your expected result from you sitting down meditating long enough, hard enough, if you think hard enough? What are you expecting from this? That's my question to you. What do you expect from sitting in one spot and being aware of either nothing, of your own breath, whatever you think it is you should be doing during meditation? Because I'll tell you the true purpose behind meditation. The purpose behind meditation, the created illusion of meditation, what people think they're supposed to be doing, is absolutely nothing. You focus on nothing, or you focus on your breath, right? Or you focus on nothing. But the point of meditation is to allow you to expose your own self within your own mind, to go deep into your own mind, to places you don't want to explore, to places you refuse to explore. This is why so many people's deepest, darkest thoughts come to life at night. So many people say, well, I'm a nighttime thinker. At nighttime, my brain comes to life and I think of all these great things or these scary things that I choose to put off. And it's because during the day, you're getting lost in your ego, your character, you're forgetting all these things. So at nighttime, it's time for the ego to sleep. And sleep's associated with death, and the ego doesn't want a part, so the ego starts thinking of all of its fears. Death, where we go when we die, what this existence is, all of this. Right? So we say at nighttime is when all of our thoughts come out. And that's the point of meditation. You're supposed to bring all those thoughts that you're avoiding, which is really yourself the whole time. That's what you're putting off. You're putting off the inevitability of your own self, the prolonging of your own self, because I propose this question all the time. Every religion says that everything began from one, from a God. One. Singularity. That represents one. How can anything be a product from one without ever returning back to that one? Meaning, how is anything a product of God, one, without being the one? You can't be. You're not a product of the one without being the one in actuality. And that's what we know subconsciously in the back of our minds that we put off and prolong. But it's been made the greatest sin by religion, and I've said that already. It's the greatest sin to even think of yourself as the Godhead, because you're now posing the greatest threat to the churches, the ones that are asking you for your money in return for a God's word. They're keeping you coming back and paying money for it, so of course they don't want to liberate you from this. They want to keep you coming back to pay. That's why the forbidden fruit liberates you from that. The forbidden fruit is the taking of DMT. That's what the forbidden fruit is referenced as. When you take the forbidden fruit, which is what's in your own pineal gland, you overstimulate your brain, you're giving yourself more than what you're supposed to take. You see that every religion ever created will never do this justice. In fact, it's the farthest thing from. The only thing it's right about is singularity, one. And it's very scary, I'm not going to lie. Your first time going into DMT, it's scary. It's horrible. It's horrifying. It really is. And Terence McKenna, you'll never hear this from anybody. If anybody's ever gone into DMT and they said they weren't at least scared once, they're not being truthful with you. Even Terence McKenna, the DMT guru, this man did DMT more than anybody I've ever heard of. Terence McKenna. Even he said there was not one time he did not go into that mindset and wasn't scared shitless. I quote him on that too. There was not one time he did not go into that mindset or into that trip and was not scared shitless. That's a quote from Terence McKenna. Because what you're seeing is the entire means behind existence at all is chaos. However, the ego is scared of chaos because the ego has to hold on, has to clench, has to hold on to something. And so the ego is trying to escape reincarnation or advance in a higher state of being. It's creating all these illusions to try and run and escape and hide and advance somewhere else or turn into light. There's so many things I read about so many people doing, and all you're doing is working your own self up by all these created illusions by the ego that is simply panicking. And that's what DMT shows you, is you can't run, you can't hide, you can't kill yourself and run. There is no escape. There's nowhere you can go. And that's the very insanity behind existence. Again, it's what you make it. You embrace the insanity, or you let it drive you insane. Sure, anyone can go insane with this. You don't think I've scared myself with my own thoughts? But it's what we make it. So it's what I've turned it into. I still scare myself with some of my thoughts, but it's what I turned it into. I've got a nice dose of psilocybin right here. That's enough for one little breakthrough right there. I just plan my trips accordingly to when my time is right, when I feel it's right, when I feel I'm ready. I take it very serious. It's a spiritual tool. It's not meant to be used as fun. It's not meant to be used as a trippy thing to see animated things or to see, you know, what younger kids try and make it. It's meant to be a tool to help you find yourself. Four. I'm skinny though, so that's enough for me. Plus my body digests things like that, so go right through me. I'll be feeling it. 4 is enough for me. I'm pretty much done with my talk on DMT though. If anyone has any questions, I'll do the Q&A now. I'll do a open Q&A if anyone has any questions here. Sorry if I ignored your comments previously too. I just was trying to stick to the topic, and I'll definitely get sidetracked a million ways if I start focusing on my comments. Sometimes they can be hateful too, so I don't like to get too distracted on my hateful comments. It depends. If it's your first time, then I would start with a small dosage just to see how you react to it, see what you think. You know, I would start with maybe 2.5, 3 grams. That's a good small first dose, I'd say. Some people say to just jump in and do 5, but I don't agree with that at all. If you're a first timer, I would say definitely start working your way up. 2.5, 3 grams, and then maybe go to 5 afterwards. But like I said, you'll know your body best, how you react and respond. And by the way, I'm not liable for anybody's legal action on my advice on that. I have to say that for legal protection. I'm not responsible for anybody's usage of DMT. I'm not getting sued today. Yeah, that's true. It does. It depends on the quality too. That's a good point, Sam. Good point. Definitely depends on the quality. The best kind are the ones that have those bluish looking colors in the stems and on the heads. That's how you know they're legit. That's how you know there's some fire. If they've got some bluish on them. You don't smoke psilocybin. Psilocybin is shrooms. You smoke DMT crystals. And the DMT crystal you smoke is the same DMT that's produced in your pineal gland. You smoke it the same way you smoke anything. Oh, there's an infinite amount of places to go outside the Matrix. But there's an infinite amount of places to go. There's an infinite amount of realms, characters, alien type, human-like, alien-like type creations. I'm not saying that for sure. There's an infinite amount. It never ends. But the bottom line behind it all is you're all of them. You're everything. Whoa. This is that's off topic right there. This is a DMT conversation. What in the world is that about? I don't know about that. Yeah, I've heard of some people being able to release natural DMT through breathing methods or like maybe meditative methods, but there is nothing that compares to actually overstimulating your brain on DMT, whether it be psilocybin, ayahuasca, or just pure DMT. There is nothing that compares to actually just overstimulating the brain on DMT. Nothing. And it's just like what Morpheus says to Neo. Nobody can show you or tell you what it is. You have to see it for yourself. Nobody can explain it. But the bottom line is anything that you're going to see on DMT, anything it's showing you, whether it's a pattern, a resolution, a question you've had, something in your past, someone you lost, something totally foreign to you, or you're seeing elves, they're still all you. That's the bottom principle of DMT. It's all you. It's all in your head. Every single thing is in your head. There is no event, no memory you can think of that's any different from another, because they were all happening now, and the now is all in your head. Think back to when you were 5, 6, 7, 8. There's no difference between any of those memories. They're all now. They were all now because they were all in your head. So, what this whole awakening process is about, what this whole awakening stage is about, excuse me, is realizing you have absolutely nothing you have to obtain, right? There's nothing you have to obtain. There's nothing you have to reach. There's no state of mind you have to reach, or you don't have to one-up the universe. It's realizing that everything you're thinking you have to get, you already have. Anything you're after, you already have. Anything you want, you already are. That's what awakening is. It's not people who are panicking and trying to escape reincarnation or saying, don't avoid the light, don't go toward the light. And this is all an illusion. You will not ever escape creation. There is no escape. There's nowhere to go, nowhere to run. You are everything. And that's the madness of it. Some people can't fathom what everything means, what being everything is. And some people don't want to admit that. Some people don't want to admit that's who they are. That's who they are. They're everything. You're it the whole time. There's not some guy in the sky that you can blame for anything. It's you. It's you the whole time. Damn it, God. Why can't you give me a break? Why can't you make my life easier? No. It's you the whole time. That's the story of Alice in Wonderland. The White Rabbit ends up being her the whole time. That's the story of the Wizard of Oz. The Oz that they thought was this great magical character that they thought was going to solve all their problems showed them that they had it the whole time. It was with them the whole time. Everything all four of them were seeking, they already had. That's the point of these movies. That's the point of The Matrix. The Matrix is a story of duality and realizing singularity just as the same. Good and bad. Neo, Mr. Smith. That's your yin and yang. Good and bad. Neo, Mr. Smith. And if at the end, he's realizing he is both the yin and the yang principle. He is Mr. Smith, and he is Neo, the chosen one. And he becomes Neo, the chosen one, by simply realizing the duality and becoming both. He allows Mr. Smith at the end to attach to him, and then explodes, and at the end he turns into the sun. Because at the very end of The Matrix, when Mr. Smith and Neo fight, it's pouring down rain in the final scene, and Mr. Smith asks Neo, he says, do you like what I've done with the place? Because he's making it pour rain. He hacked into the Matrix and made it pour rain. It's been pouring rain there for years. And so that's the final scene where they fight. He realizes that he is Mr. Smith, and he can't fight him because he's fighting his own self. So he stops, he allows him to take him over, and he chooses to stop fighting because he realizes he's both. And then he explodes. He explodes Mr. Smith because he destroys him. He's realizing he is both of them. And then at the very end, the Oracle is sitting on a park bench looking up at the sun, and there's a kid saying, is Neo still alive? Something like that, to that effect. And she's looking right at the sun saying, yes, he's still up there. He's there. Because Neo hacked into the Matrix, erased the rain. Mr. Smith had created the rain, and then there was the sun shining, and she's looking right at the sun saying, yes, he's there. That's Neo. That's the point of the Matrix, realizing the duality from the singularity. Realizing you are the Neo. We're all the Neo. You watching the Matrix was you watching yourself. You are the Neo. You are the Neo that's being led to the Morpheus because you know something in the world isn't right, or you know something greater than yourself, and that's what you know the whole time, is singularity. It's you at the end. It's you. That's a spoiler alert. Unblock or remove chakras? Absolutely not. I personally don't believe in that. I won't sit here and say that it's not real for some people. It's a matter of perception, so I'm not going to say that that's not real or that's not a thing. It's literally a matter of perception. If you believe in that, that's your perception. I completely respect that. That's what perception is. But I personally don't feel you have to clean chakras. I don't believe in the chakra system. I believe the chakra system was metaphoric. Personally, like I said, I don't mean to disrespect anybody if they believe in that. The chakra system is an awakening, is a metaphoric awakening stage of yourself. There's 7 stages. I mean, yes, they are points of the body, right? But I believe those chakras are metaphoric. It's a ladder, basically you climbing your own ladder, basically. It's the ascending of Jacob's ladder. It's the same thing. The rising of your Christ consciousness up into your pineal gland, and boom, your third eye opens. That's your chakra system. You reach the crown chakra when you open your third eye and you've seen yourself beyond the veil. That's what I believe the chakra system is. It's a metaphoric stage of awakening. So when you're at the very bottom of the chakra system, you're investigating small things, conspiracies and government and all this, and then you slowly move up the list and you find out that all these things were just side avenues keeping you from realizing your own self. That the very system and corrupt government that's in place was you the whole time, allowing you to forget. It was put in place by you to forget. Why? Because you're the entirety. You are the good and the bad principle. There's nothing outside the universe for you to blame. Again, that's the story of Matrix. He's Neo and Smith. That's the whole point of awakening. You don't have to expose the government anymore. It's you awakening to yourself, liberating yourself from the very system, because you're aware that system that was put in place that allowed you to see something wasn't right, that made you start questioning things to begin with, that system was put into place by you so you would question things, so you would begin on your journey of self-discovery, so you would start questioning things. That very system is corrupt, so some of us can start catching on to things. It's been put into place by us. We are it, the entirety. There's nothing to blame. It's all you. That's the point of awakening. It's supposed to liberate you, not keep you in a repetitive circle. If I just keep sharing, if I keep exposing the government conspiracies, if I keep exposing the pedophilia, if I keep exposing all this, sharing does nothing. I've said this a million times. If it's happening right in front of you, do something. Respond. Act. By all means. But so long as you have good in the world, you will have bad. And this is beyond your control. And a share doesn't help. You're the system of good and bad. You are the principle of the yin and yang. You would not know what good is, you would not know what laughter is unless you knew the opposite. You wouldn't know what love was if you didn't know the opposite. There must exist a bad for there to exist a good, and vice versa. But you're everything. That's the point of a corrupt system. That's the point of a government in place. It's allowing people to see, to even begin the journey realizing something is not right. That's the point. See, and we're only viewing it as it's bad. Well, this is bad, it's bad, it's bad. Well, no, it allowed you to see, to begin with, that there's something wrong, that there's something not right in the world. That was the point. It's what got you on your journey of self-discovery, what snapped you out of whatever you were in and made you realize something isn't right. That's why things aren't right. Because the ones who are good, not corrupt, will catch on and see that. And I'll end this video with this right here. So many people ask, well, why do people go bad? Why do people want to do bad, hate, or kill? And it's very simple. When you open your third eye, you test yourself. You test your character. You test your principles, your morals. Everything you think you stand for, you test and fully test when you open your third eye. Because you see, there is nothing outside the universe that's going to punish you. There is no place of hell. You're it. And that's why there's nothing stopping you from taking someone's life. And I say that because that's the greatest form of evil, of hate. There's nothing that can stop you from committing the greatest sin or the greatest act of love. Because you are it. And that's why so many people go bad, because when you open the third eye, you see that there is no consequence. Because as I said, the good will exist where there's bad, and that's the reality of it. Some people will fight this to the death because they don't want to think that. But that's why so many go bad, because they see there's no consequence, there's nothing outside of them, so I can get away with it, right? And that's the true testing of a person. You see who's good and bad because that's when you know what they do behind closed doors. That's the true testing of a person when they open that third eye. That's a great question. Murder is the greatest sin. What's the greatest act of love? The truth is, behind love and hate, though, is it's literally a matter of perception, because to murderers and psychopaths, they're doing justice. It's right. It's love. And to us, they're fucking nuts. But to them, we're fucking nuts. Vice versa. It's a matter of perception. Good and bad, hate and love, matter of perception. That's the reality of it. You could switch it around either way and it would work because it's a matter of perception. And it works that way with all duality. You could switch left with right and right with left because it's just a name. It would still work. Just a matter of perception. I'll actually end it with this because I see so many people posting this. There's more bad in the world, there's more hate in the world, there's more evil in the world is the greatest illusion to mankind. Because what you focus on is what you will feed energy to, is what you're manifesting, is what you're bringing back to yourself, is what you're bringing power to. It's what you're creating. You are the universe. So if you're focusing on every single bad event that's happening, if you're focusing on this and this and this and this government and this war and this killing and this, you're always going to be under the illusion that there's more bad than good because you're focusing on it. And that's quite obvious. You're watching it. You're focused on it. Of course you're going to see more bad than good. You're not focusing on the good. You're choosing to only see the bad. And so that is the illusion. If you choose to focus on more on the love, more on people being good, doing good, that's what will come about. And I'm not saying just because you walk somewhere and you say, oh, well, this is going to be a good day, or this is going to be a good thing, or this is going to be good. I'm not saying it's automatically going to happen. But I'm saying what you put your attention on is what you're bringing power to and what you're going to obviously see. So if you're only focused on the bad and only looking up the bad, that's what you're focusing on. That's all you're aware of is the bad. Of course, there's far more bad than good for you. Why feed yourself that? I used to see far more hate. I used to be under the same illusion. There's way more hate. Now that I'm conscious, I see far more love. There's way more love because I choose to see it. Not that because there is more love, because I choose to see it. I focus on the good. I focus on the love. I'm going to end the video with that, though. I covered DMT, what it is like explained to me. Did a little Q&A. Thanks for everybody who watched again. Thanks for everybody who helped me post while I was in Facebook jail, too. And hopefully I don't get put back in. My content keeps getting reported, so we'll see. But if so, you got my YouTube and all that. Thanks for watching, y'all. One love.